our fifth dish using our whole ribeye, we're gonna be making Caesar salad. You know, normally chicken Caesar salad is what you see. The chopped chicken Caesar wraps are going viral. Tons of restaurants are blowing up. Steak, in my opinion, holds up so much better than chicken to Caesar dressing. There's so much flavor going on in Caesar dressing, which I'm gonna show you how to make. Why do it with chicken? It has no flavor. I mean, chicken thighs, chicken breast is good, but it gets overpowered by Caesar dressing, I think. So, in my opinion, steak Caesar outperforms chicken Caesar every single time. Let's try to make a chopped steak Caesar wrap. All right, first we gotta make our dressing, right? So what I have here is 3 cloves of garlic, anchovy paste, a lot easier than getting in there with the whole anchovy fillets. It already has the oil incorporated into it, so tons of flavor there. It's about 1.5 teaspoons of anchovy paste. Forgot a spoon. So put that into our blender. Then we're gonna go with Dijon mustard, about 1.5 teaspoons of that. There we go. We're gonna go Graza olive oil, my favorite. Healthy amount of olive oil. We're gonna go my new favorite hot sauce from Zab's. The cool thing about what they do is they use a really special pepper called the dill pepper. Makes an incredible hot sauce. If you have not tried Zab's hot sauce, please try it. You'll be blown away. Just a couple dashes of hot sauce. You're not looking for making it spicy, just adding some extra flavor, a little bit of heat. We have freshly grated Parmigiano-Reggiano cheese. We're gonna be using most of this, and then the rest of it is gonna be folded into the actual Caesar salad itself. So you're going for about 1/2 cup here. It really helps thicken your Caesar dressing. Adds a ton of flavor, of course. We have 2 egg yolks, again, from Happy Eggs, my favorite. The yolks, the color on these is just insane. The flavor is too, so add those right in. Then we're just gonna cut a lemon, use my juicer. Good amount of lemon, about 1 whole lemon. And totally your preference. If you like your Caesar dressing less lemony, then use 1/2. If you like it more, add more. Doesn't really matter, it's all gonna taste delicious. Just gotta grab some black pepper, freshly ground, good amount.
Are you staying here real quick?
Mm-hmm.
You can move the blender up on the timer.
Yep.
So right back.
All right, so I think we're good to go. So Caesar dressing, it's really forgiving. It's not like a normal vinaigrette. If it's not enough acid, add a little bit more. It's gonna get all emulsified in there with everything that's already in there. The Dijon, the egg yolk, the Parmesan cheese, those are all really, really good emulsifiers for a dressing, so you should be good to go. The only thing it may need is a touch more olive oil. All right, let's make some Caesar. a little loose. So like I said, the only thing it really needs, a little bit more olive oil. That's gonna thicken everything up in there. Let's see where we are. That's what you're going for, I think. So first thing we got to do, chop up some romaine, and we're going to chop this more in the bowl. Nice little rough chop there. We have our steak that we cooked in the pan. Then all we're gonna do here, chop it up a little bit. A little medium dice, I would say. That. And instead of croutons, not that I'm opposed to croutons, but I really love the crispy Parmesan. Just adds a really nice texture. Really great umami, tons of flavor in there. And then our leftover grated Parmesan. Throw that. Then extra freshly cracked black pepper. A little bit of salt. Then our Caesar dressing, just a little bit. And then Doll Strong pizza cutter, not just for pizza. All right, got our filling ready to go. All we got to do now, we have our flour tortilla that I like to get from Tacombi. It is an incredible brand that makes really great flour tortillas, corn tortillas. If you haven't tried it out, I highly guarantee you should. So let's just toast this over the flame real quick, wrap it up, and we're good to go. Got our toasted tortilla. Add our filling. You got to pack this guy in. Fifth dish already out of a whole ribeye. There's so much ribeye still left. This is gonna be. All right. All right. So fifth dish, we have a chopped steak Caesar wrap. You see them all over the internet. Chicken Caesars though, and like I said, steak holds up so much better to Caesar dressing, in my opinion, than chicken does. So try it out with steak, and I cannot wait to dig into this one. Look at that.
was way too big of a bite, but well worth it because I stand by my opinion. Steak is so much better than chicken for a Caesar salad. Try this one out. Let's move on to our sixth dish.
And for the sixth dish, using our whole ribeye, we're gonna be making a beef tartare, kind of Asian style. So we're gonna be doing some Kewpie mayo, green apple, soy sauce, gochujang, tons of other stuff in there. So let's get started on it. So, just gonna take a nice slice right off the eye of the ribeye right here. More than enough for our serving. I'm gonna trim it up a little bit, just getting some of the sinew off, some of the silver skin that just doesn't break down when cutting, obviously, and it's just too chewy. If you are planning on making beef stock, all of this, or broth, it could be easily saved for all that, but this little slice right here is more than enough for what we need. And for my tartare, I don't like to chop it. I just kind of flatten it out a little bit using a super sharp knife, like my dull strong slicer. I am just going to cut this guy into a small dice. You don't want it too small. I still like to taste the beef. And the reason I'm making a tartare is normally tartare is done with the filet or the tenderloin of the beef, but for me, there's no texture to it. It tastes good, right? It's super tender, obviously, but there's no texture. It's just kind of mushy, and so you always need to add some sort of crispy element, which I'm still doing with crispy sushi rice, but I still like to have the beef have a little bit more flavor than a normal filet, as well as being not chewy, but just having texture to it. So, yeah. And we're going to be making two different types of tartares. One will be a more classic style. We're going to be serving it on a potato chip, capers, cornichons, lemon, all that kind of stuff. So way more traditional. But this one we have on our catering menu. It's been there for a while, and it's one of my favorite appetizers that we do. So I want to show you guys how to make it. So like I said, you're just going to turn it into almost a small dice. Thin strips at first. You're going to turn it and then cut it the same way. And like I said, you do not have to chop this up into a little mushy tartare. It is not necessary. I like to have that little bit of chew on there, a little bit of texture. So I'm just using my knife, which means I'm using the length of the knife here. You're going to get a much cleaner cut. So as you can see, up and down with it. I'm not sawing away at it. I want to keep nice knife cuts. This is what makes this dish look so good, is the knife cut itself. There you go. More than enough right there. So, put that in our first bowl right here. It's a few servings right there. Now, move that. Take the glove off. And to add to this, I'm going to change up my knife too. So I like to use these types of knives. You could use whatever you like, but I like to use these types for really getting that nice knife cut on there. So we got green apple, garlic, ginger, some scallions, cucumber, lime, some seaweed, a couple sheets right there, enough. And then I'll show you the rest of it after. But to start, we are going to add some finely diced seaweed. This is just toasted seaweed. Also, everything that you're cutting, try and make it just a touch smaller than the beef itself. You really want the beef to be the star here. So I'll be brunoising these. You can mince them, you can throw them in a food processor, whatever you want. Smaller cuts than the beef, that's all I ask. Rough chop it again, just to make sure. Good to go. We're gonna add that to our beef. Next, we're gonna go to the cucumber. Got these adorable little cucumbers. And we're gonna go to the same cut, brunoise. Easiest way to do that. Thin strips first. You could use whatever cucumber you want here, doesn't matter. You're gonna go back, make other strips. Turn it again. Now we're going for a nice little brunoise. That gets added as well. We got scallions, so I'm just going to clean this guy up. You could use regular onion here, you can use shallot, scallions, anything you got. I just like scallion, the flavor works really well with any Asian food. We're going to brunoise this as well. Easiest way to do it is to just slice it in half. And you got thin strips again. Again, you're going for all the cuts smaller than the actual beef itself. Any texture from it, you really want that beef to shine. Go. Next we got ginger. You just need a little bit. I'm going to grab a microplane for this because I want the ginger grated as well as the garlic. Just a little bit. I'm going for maybe a half a teaspoon here of ginger. Ginger's pretty strong, so you don't want too much, not overpowering. And that's probably more than enough right there. Garlic. You're going for about a half a clove here, just a little bit. More than enough there. Next, lime. You get about a quarter lime zested. This is where the acidity comes from. And wherever I there. And last but not least, we're going green apple. You can use pear, really any type of apple. I like green apple, it has that good acidity that we're looking for. It also has great crunch. So in total, you're only going to use about maybe a quarter of this apple, so the rest of it, eat as a snack. So same thing, we're going to be slicing this super thin. You don't have to peel it or anything like that. You can if you want. That's about all we're going for here. Obviously, you can make this in bulk. If you're cooking for, 10, 12 people, you could use the whole apple, but that's about all we're doing here today. So we're going for like a little matchstick cut at first, and then same thing, you're just gonna turn it. Super, super small dice on this as well. There you go. All right, let me clear my board. All right, so what's left is we obviously have to fry our rice cakes, which are already done. They're set, full recipe down below. But for the sauce, we're gonna use Kewpie mayo. My favorite type of mayo, has MSG in there. Makes it super delicious, just a little bit. And we're gonna go in with gochujang, mother-in-law's gochujang, one of my favorites. Then adding some extras to kind of balance that gochujang. A little bit of honey. Come on. There we go. A little bit extra lime juice. Just a dash. Soy sauce. Momofuku Goods, my favorite soy sauce on the market right now. A couple dashes of that. And then sesame oil, which will balance out the lime, the acidity from the lime. Just a little. And a little salt to bring everything else out. So we're gonna mix this together. And you want a really light sauce. You don't really wanna take over the flavors. It's raw beef, right? So we're not cooking it. We're not getting that Maillard reaction, that caramelization, whatever you wanna call it, on the outside of the beef. So you're not bringing out those super strong beefy flavors, so you want to keep it light. Remember, we have green apple, lime, ginger, things that don't have a ton of flavor on their own, so you don't want to cover all that up with a sauce that is too overpowering and too strong. So I'm going to mix this in here. Super easy to make. What we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this. We're gonna add a touch of salt as well. Just to kind of season all the other stuff in there. Let the flavors come together. We're gonna mix it. We're gonna let it sit in the fridge while we fry our rice cakes. But, show you what you're going for here. And like I was saying, with all the knife cuts, listen, does knife cuts make your dish taste better? No. But with a tartare, for me, at least what I'm going for, and what I hope you're going for too, is presentation, right? So you really want to see all those beautiful knife cuts. I mean, you have hopefully a really sharp knife at home. So show it off, especially if you're cooking for friends or family. Show off what you could do. That's what you're going for. Lightly mixed, lightly sauced. The beef is the star here. You can see the beef is still bigger than every other knife cut in there. That's what you're going for. Let's make some rice cakes. All right, so for our Asian style beef tartare, we are gonna be serving on crispy sushi rice. So this is my pressed sushi rice. The full recipe will be down below. But all I do is I soak my sushi rice and then I rinse it, drain it, rinse it, drain it until that water is super clear. Cook it, and I cook it just in water, touch of salt, for about 15 to 17 minutes, covered, and then on super low heat. Then I take it off, let it rest for about another 12 to 15 minutes. And then while that's cooking, I have my sushi vinegar ready to go. So it is rice vinegar, and you could definitely buy seasoned sushi rice vinegar ready to go. You don't have to mess with it. I like to make my own. I like to control what goes in it. So it is just rice vinegar, kombu, and salt. You could add a pinch of sugar if you'd like, but I don't find it totally necessary when you're making crispy sushi rice. Once the sushi rice is cooked, rested, I add that seasoned rice vinegar to it, mix it all in. I also throw in a dash of cornstarch. You can use potato starch. It really helps the rice set, and it helps it from falling apart while frying. We're going to be shallow frying this. You could deep fry it. You could pan fry it, with just a touch of oil if you want a lighter crust on each side. But I do like the crust to go all around the rice. So you have that really crispy outside, and the inside is still, when you break it open, you can still see that there's all the rice is separated, how it should be. So let's get this going. So you could heat the bottom to get it out easier, but I put a piece of parchment down, just sprayed it with a little bit of cooking spray, and it should come right out. So let's see. There we go. Comes right off. And then what I like to do, you just cut this right in half. Actually, I'm just going to use a quarter of this. We're not going to be using more than that. Also, all this was just 1 cup of rice. So it spreads a ton. So all we'll be using for today to make this dish is this. And this, again, if you're using it as an appetizer at your house for a friend's dinner, family dinner, just this amount will serve at least 4 people as an appetizer. So I'm going to put this right back. And the great thing about this is it freezes really, really well. So I'm just going to cover this, freeze it. Next time we need to use it, good to go. So what I like to do is turn it upside down, trim it. And we're going to make nice rectangles out of this. So cut it into strips first. And you can cut it into whatever shape you want. It does not matter. But we'll get 6 pieces out of this. There you go. Oh. All right. Toss the bits. All right, our oil is ready to go. So follow me, let's fry them up. Oil, I'm using beef tallow. I mean, we're serving with beef tartare, so why not use beef tallow? You could use canola, avocado oil, whatever neutral oil you have, but highly recommend tallow. Super healthy for you, and also tastes great. So let's test our oil here. One thing about frying rice cakes is rice tends to stick to each other in a pan. So drop them in one at a time and kind of move them around a little bit, because if you drop all of them in, you'll get one big clump of crispy sushi rice, but you want them individual, right? So look at that. I think it's ready to go. There we go. All right, so we got our crispy sushi rice ready to flip here, and you can see it's sticking a little bit, but that's okay. Probably should have done it in a bigger pan, but we are ready to flip here. So I have an offset spatula, best way to do it. Beautiful. You could use tongs, but tongs tend to just kind of mess up the rice. There we go. A couple more minutes, we're all set. All right, rice cakes are done. And what you're really going for is that color right there. Look at that. Golden brown, delicious, GBD. So take them out of the oil. I turned off the oil. All you want to do here is drain them a little bit. Hit them with a pinch of salt. There you go. All right, let's finish this dish. All right, so to finish this off, we have our Asian style beef tartare. And what I like to do, remember, it's all about presentation here, right? We already have our super awesome knife cuts. So we have our crispy sushi rice here. And you want to serve this warm, right? Because you want the crisp texture on the outside, and really the temperature difference between crispy, hot sushi rice and really cold beef tartare is really awesome. All these flavors will pop. They'll be warmed slightly by the crispy sushi rice itself. So while this is warm, let's do it. So I'm gonna plate these all up here. Just like that. I'm gonna put a little garnish on them of just some toasted sesame seeds. And I always like to plate on a separate sheet tray or a separate plate. Then when you go to plate it, it's not messy. You don't have a bunch of garnish falling off everywhere. I mean, look at that. From one little thin slice of beef, we have 6 pieces of heavily, I would say heavily plated beef tartare on crispy sushi rice. We still have more than enough here to probably make another 2. So one thin slice gets you at least 8 little pieces. Beautiful little appetizer. Let's plate it up. So like I said, last thing we're gonna do, garnish it with some toasted sesame seeds. You could buy them like I did. These are always perfectly toasted, or you can do it yourself. Oven, spread them out thin on a sheet tray, 350 degrees for about 8 to 9 minutes. Good to go. So let's plate this up. I'm gonna put the best looking one, I would say that one, right on here. Let's do 3. Always plate in odd numbers. Looks better. Easier for the brain to see. Pick that off. That is a beautiful little appetizer. It's gonna taste even better. Asian style beef tartare, crispy sushi rice. Again, full recipe down below. Let's try this one out. Look at that. So much flavor and texture going on there. A little spice from the gochujang. Really, really well balanced though with that little bit of honey in there. It's my favorite on the blend catering appetizer for a good reason. And look at that. You can still see all the little rice in there still separated like it should be. You get that really nice vinegar pop, kind of cuts through that Kewpie mayo. This one's unreal. You gotta try this one out. All right, for our 7th dish, using a whole ribeye, we're gonna be making another tartare, but keeping it a little bit more traditional. We're gonna top it with caviar, but we're gonna serve it on a potato chip. From these guys, Vandy, classic potato chips. Now, the cool thing about this and why I chose this chip to serve it on is because the only ingredients are potatoes and 100% grass-fed beef tallow and Redmond real sea salt. So 3 super simple ingredients, main one being the beef tallow. These have a awesome, like kind of beefy flavor almost. And the crunch on these things are insane. So I'll be topping my more traditional kind of beef tartare on these guys. If you haven't tried them out, definitely try them. But let's get to making our super traditional beef tartare. First, we're gonna start out again by taking our eye of the ribeye, nice thin slice, and just like the other tartare, 1 slice is more than enough. Put that back. Trim the edges, just because the bottom of this does have some silver skin. And like I said, it just doesn't really break down. Any excess fat, not really great to chew on raw like this, so there we go. We're pretty much all set there. Now what we're gonna do, move this here. Our bowl is right here. We're gonna mix everything right into one bowl here. So I'm gonna slice this in half, go a little faster there, but do it at your own pace, whatever you're comfortable with. And again, we're just doing about a small dice on this. so that every other thing that we slice, the shallots, the cornichons, obviously the chopped up capers, chives, all of that will be a little bit smaller than the beef. So we're making that beef the star. Also, just like the last one thin slice is going to get you, if you're making this for an appetizer, at least 8 portions out of one thin slice. So another great reason to buy that whole ribeye. Also, like I explained, I do like to slice this and not chop it all up. Just for that little bit of bite, that little bit of texture. I really like that in a tartare. I don't like it to be all mushy, and that's why I do not use filet. We don't use filet for the catering company either. Highly recommend using something like a ribeye or a New York, just for that little bit of extra texture that you just don't get in a filet. All right, we got our chopped meat there. I'm gonna move this cutting board out of the way. Let's get going on the rest. All right, so for the more traditional beef tartare, we have our beautifully diced eye of the ribeye. I'm gonna be adding some really, really finely sliced chives. Chives go in first. And we got some capers. Just gonna chop these up. You could do a rough chop. I like to chop them pretty small, almost minced, super salty. So, and these are rinsed. I literally just take a little bit out, drain them, rinse them a couple times in cold water. Kind of gets the excess salt off, which literally just tastes like salt, and you actually get a much better, cleaner caper flavor. There you go. We got some cornichons, more acidity, more crunch, and we're just going to chop these up as well. Take your time on all this. Again, just like the Asian style beef tartare, you really want all the knife cuts to look really well. Beef tartare is not just about the flavor, it is about the presentation. It's gotta look good. All right, we got our thin slices. We're gonna go back again. Really finely chop these. And one more time again, just to make sure we're not having big pops of cornichon in there. Way too much flavor going on, it'll take over the beef. There you go. And we got garlic. So, using a microplane again to mince just 1 clove of garlic. More than enough. And then a little bit of lemon, about 1/4 of a lemon. And then we're going to take that same lemon, throw in about 1 teaspoon of juice. There you go. Last thing we got to dice up is our shallot. Again, a nice brunoise on your shallot. Using just 1 little shallot. It's going to end up being about 1 teaspoon or so. when it's all said and done. Looking for. And we're going to go in with a pinch of salt, 1 egg yolk, some freshly cracked black pepper, some really good olive oil. I love Graza, you know that. And last but not least, Dijon mustard. You can use whole grain, just don't use yellow mustard. You'll be good to go. Since I'll be topping it with caviar, I want the pop to come from the caviar and not from the whole grain mustard. So just a little bit of Dijon is perfect for this one. More than enough. Let's mix all this up now. Beautiful looking tartare. Let's plate it up. Look at that. Classic beef tartare, topped with caviar from Tsar Nikolai, served on these amazing Vandy classic potato chips, cooked in 100% grass-fed beef tallow. Better pairing for our ribeye? I can't think of one, so let's try it out. Look at that. First thing you get is that pop from the caviar. The crunch comes right through from the potato chip. Super beefy. You got a little bit of texture from the ribeye itself. Everything else just perfectly complements it. You can't go wrong. You gotta try this one out. And final dish I'm gonna make from a whole ribeye is searing up just part of the eye again. So we're gonna make this a little bit thicker this time. But the key to this whole dish, it's not even about the steak this time. It's about the butter. Normally, and you probably see it all over the internet, chefs basting their steak in butter, turns into brown butter, smells unbelievable, right? You could add thyme, shallots, garlic, bay leaves, black pepper, which is all the things that we're gonna do today. But I'm gonna call this dish No more basting and wasting. Because I'm going to show you why you should not baste your steak. Sear it in tallow, just with salt. On the side, we're going to make a larger batch of a seasoned brown butter, which we're going to rub on the steak after it's cooked and rested. And you'll still have a ton of brown butter left over for the next time you cook your steak. You could freeze it, put it in the fridge, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to show you why it is totally useless to baste your steak with brown butter, because it just goes to waste afterwards. Butter's expensive, especially now. Don't just throw it out. So let's get started. First, we got our ribeye, the eye again. Clean it up a little bit. I'm going to take this bottom part off. Put that to the side. And again, this is just choice, but great marbling just for choice. Can't go wrong. Still a ribeye. It's going to be absolutely delicious. So a little bit thicker of a cut. Going for about 1.5 inches here. And we're going to clean this guy up a little bit. Just take off that excess fat on the bottom. I mean, that kind of mimics a filet, but with so much more flavor, a little bit more texture. Can't go wrong with the ribeye. So all I'm going to do here is season it with salt, and that's it. We're going to get our pan ripping hot. We're going to cook it in beef tallow using the actual beef tallow that we rendered off of that whole ribeye at first. Remember that? And I'll show you how much we actually got. It's pretty mind-blowing. That tallow alone would cost you in a store at least $40 with how much we got. So season it with salt only, and we'll go from there. Like I said, only salt all over. And more salt than you think. A lot of it comes off in the pan, but beef, especially with a little bit of fat like this guy, can take a lot of salt. So let's get it going. Like I said, the key to this dish is not actually the steak. Getting a good sear on the steak, awesome. Cooking it really well, great. But how do you add more flavor? Normally, you baste your steak, right? No more basting and wasting. You're wasting way too much butter. So what I like to do is make brown butter. I'm going to be using 1 stick of butter. Cooking it in a pot till it's lightly browned, and then we're going to add our aromatics. I have garlic, shallot, a bay leaf, and some fresh thyme. You could add other aromatics, but this is your typical array of aromatics, I would say, that you would add to a butter while you're basting your steak in the pan. So we're going to do it all separately. The only thing that's not pictured here, freshly cracked black pepper and a pinch of salt. So let's get started. Super easy. So all we're going to do, slice everything up. Well, not everything, but the garlic and the shallots. Now we got our bay leaf, and we got our thyme. You can keep it whole like this, not a big deal. I'm just going to cut it in half, just so it fits in my bowl. Add everything to here. Let's go finish the brown butter. So 1 stick of butter. I highly recommend, Strauss is one of my favorites. It is 85% butter fat. If you're looking for butter, the higher percentage of butter fat, the better. So I got my pan or my pot on low heat. And it's going to start to brown pretty quick. I had it preheated. All I'm going to do is I'm going to season it with some salt. Let that cook until the whole thing begins to brown. Almost there. And like I said, the good thing about this, you make it in advance. You can cool it in the fridge. You could freeze it. Stays really good in the freezer for a while. But what you're not going to be doing is wasting butter. Every time you baste that steak, you end up tossing the butter. It does not even end up on the plate itself. And you wasted butter. Butter's expensive. Don't do that. Almost there. And you can see, beginning to get there. The color is changing. And what's happening is the milk solids are actually separating from the butter itself. And they're almost frying in the butter fat. Turn it a little bit. All right, we're almost there. In the meantime, let's sear our steak. So that is our homemade beef tallow. Look at that. This, like I said, in a store, if you're buying beef tallow from a store, this much will be about 40 bucks. So already saved you 40 bucks. That's a good amount. Our steak seasoned with just salt. There we go. Our butter now, almost there. You could begin to smell that brown butter. It's one of the best smells in the kitchen. And because this is so thick, I do want to continue to flip this and move it around. Every 35, 45 seconds, we're going to flip that. All right, our butter is almost there. It's lightly starting to brown. And what you want to do with your aromatics is you want to add them at this point when the butter is lightly browned. Because if you add them too late, by the time all this gets infused into here, it's going to burn. The butter will be burnt, and you're going to have to throw it all out. And that's not what we're going for. So I'm going to take it off the heat. I'm going to add in freshly cracked black pepper. Right, so we're almost there, but you can see by flipping it, watch this. Look at that crust. And we're not even there yet. So that crust is going to just build and build and build. Constantly moving that steak around. Flipping every 35, 45 seconds. You're really, really building that crust. And on the inside, you're going to have a nice medium rare throughout. You're not going to have those gray, thin lines going throughout. All right, steak is almost done. Our butter, as you can see, I turned it off. I added the black pepper, touch of salt, but that's what you're going for. Beautiful. So now we're gonna add our aromatics. Again, we got thyme, bay leaf, garlic, shallot. All right, so we had our brown butter, we seasoned it, salt, pepper, bay leaf, garlic, shallot, thyme. I wish you could smell this right now, it's unbelievable. And now that all those aromatics have infused, we're good to go. So I'm just gonna shut this off now. We're set. Once this cools, later on, I'm gonna put it in a bowl, something like that to kind of store it. Once it's cooled all the way, it's good to go in the fridge for at least a couple weeks. So let's finish searing our steak. All right, steak is cooked. I'm gonna let this rest. It's pretty thick, so you wanna let that rest for at least 5 minutes. So our steak is rested, beautifully seared on both sides with just salt and its own beef tallow. So all we're gonna do now, so I'm going to show you how much less butter it takes to actually season your beef or your steak with the brown butter than you normally would by basting it in a pan. So all we're going to do here, slice it up, beautifully cooked. So, our seasoned brown butter, thyme, shallot, garlic, bay leaf, butter. It's been browned, salt and pepper. That's it. All we're gonna do is take a little bit, rub that over the sliced side of the steak. Look at that. Nice and glazed, super shiny, and the flavor is gonna be unbelievable. Let's try it out. And final dish using our whole ribeye is probably the simplest of them all. Steak, seared with salt and beef tallow that we rendered ourselves, basted with that brown butter. Let's try it out. Look at that. Beautifully cooked. Flipping it every 35, 45 seconds makes a huge difference on that crust and how well it's cooked. But the main point of this dish is no more basting and wasting. You waste way too much butter. It costs way too much money. Now I use 1 stick of butter, which I've seen on the internet sometimes. People searing a piece of steak and basting it with a full stick of butter. All that gets wasted. You maybe use 5% of what you're actually basting that butter with or basting the steak with. Now you save all of that. I still have all of this ready to go that I'm gonna save in my fridge for the next time that I cook a steak. And you're not left with a bunch of butter down the drain. That's money down the drain. Don't do it. So, 8th and final dish, can't beat it. Ribeye seared with beef tallow, just salt, basted with that awesome brown butter sauce. You gotta try this one out. All right, now, I think 8 dishes is probably good enough to show you why it is so much more cost effective to buy a whole ribeye. But I also wanted to show you, with those 8 dishes that we made, each dish fed at least 2 people, if not 4, right? Look how much we're still left with after rendering all the fat, making 8 dishes. We're still left with all of this. We have our eye and our eye right here. We still have almost 3/4 of that rib cap steak. Again, my favorite cut on the whole cow. You're still left with 3/4 of it. I've already used it in 2 dishes. You could make at least 3 more dishes out of this, I would say, or you could grill or sear up the whole thing. This still would serve another 4 people, I would say, as long as you have some side dishes to go along with it. And you're still left with all this eye as well. You could grind some of this extra stuff, turn into a ribeye burger. You could cut them into more steaks. You could roast the whole thing. Up to you on what you want to do with it. DM me. I can give you some more ideas. I've made steak 100 different ways before. So I hope the next time you go to a store or a butcher shop, buy the whole ribeye. Do not opt for buying 4 little ribeye steaks. Don't waste your money. Buy the whole thing. Try out these dishes. Try out one of them. Tell me which one you like the best. And I cannot wait to really start this YouTube channel. Follow for more. Thank you.